This video is an entire full course on LLM SEO and GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. LLM stands for Large Language Models. Essentially what that means is you'll be able to get traffic from AI tools like ChatGPT and the many other AI tools to promote your brand. This is the hottest trend in SEO because search engines are losing, Google, there's losing market share to AI because people are going to search in ChatGPT and other AI tools. So as a business owner, if you're selling anything, you want AI to promote your products. And before you finish this video, I'm going to be showing you how to do this. And I'm going to show you case studies of how I got ChatGPT to promote me within minutes, and many other examples. It's a long video, but that's because it's an entire course. I put a lot of little lectures, one after another in this whole course. And by the end of this course, you'll be able to get ahead on this incredible new trend in SEO, perhaps the hottest, the most largest seismic shift in this entire industry. Because when did Google lose significant market share? Almost never since it started. So this is really big, huge trend. You want to get ahead of it, and this is a whole free course on it. What else is left to say except welcome and enjoy. Let's define what is GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, and compare that to the more traditional SEO, Basic Search Engine Optimization. And as we do that, since GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, is a relatively new field, the word generative has a few jokes associated with it, mainly degenerative. So if you ever have an urge to make a funny comment like, hey, this presenter has practiced degenerative SEO on himself, please reserve those comments, because even myself, the first day I saw generative engine optimization, I thought degenerative. But let's not make that joke. It's a little too easy. In any case, let's talk about what GEO actually is. It's relatively new in the SEO world, but you might even say that precisely this is the future of what is modern SEO today. This is where modern SEO is going, because today people are searching Google mostly, but AIs are taking more and more search market share from traditional search engines like Google and Bing and Yahoo and etc. And while GEO, generative engine optimization, is actually still present on Google itself because it does give you AI-driven results as well, there's so much of it that is moving off of Google that in a large way, Google is in some sort of trouble here. And SEO may shift largely away from Google itself. And this will be a seismic shift in the entire industry that we just have never seen since actually before Google was invented, because that's what Google did to the other earlier search engines and disrupted that entire industry. So in any case, what we're interested in knowing now is how to optimize your content to make it more visible on AI-driven search engines, so that AI-driven search engines, like if you ask ChatGPT, what socks should I buy? And if you sell socks, you want ChatGPT to promote your socks. That's GEO. And of course, these AI tools have a wide range. There are dozens and dozens of these. The best known one is ChatGPT. There are others like Perplexity and many other AI tools, including, of course, Google, because Google, as I mentioned a little earlier, does have its own AI overviews. And before I give you an example of how to actually do GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, let's highlight and explain the difference between traditional SEO and GEO. In traditional SEO, the focus is usually on keywords, keyword identification, then keyword optimization in your content. Now, with GEO, there's less of a focus on keywords and more on entire context. Because think about it, these are AIs. They don't need to mix and match keywords. They are more intelligent in many cases than most people. And depending on how negative you are on people's general intelligence, you might say, oh yeah, people are not even that smart to begin with. I didn't say that. In that joke, some grumpy theoretical viewer of this video is making that little comment. You and I are much nicer than that, of course. And getting back to being a little serious, we do want to acknowledge that AIs care about context because they can understand context just like a human would. Maybe, okay, not all humans, but like most humans. And so the context that's important for you to share with the AIs is how well does your content explain the whole picture? And how does that fit within your brand? Like, let's say you're a doctor and you're talking about something within nutrition. AIs understand, okay, let's say it's a really informative, well-rounded article, and there's a context like, hey, the person talking is a doctor, not somebody from the street. Oh, great. And of course, they'll go and mix and match and verify your content. Is it accurate with whatever else it knows about that subject matter, like latest research by top universities, etc. And if it thinks, oh, it's true, and the presenter is authoritative and the content is good, then of course you'll have a far higher chance to be promoted in the AI search engines. But let me give you a more concrete example. Let's say you're selling some product. Maybe it's a yoga mat, maybe it's a cooking pot, or any other product. In the past, let's say we're doing a yoga mat example, your main keyword would be yoga mat. If you can rank in Google search for the keyword yoga mat, you would make millions and millions of dollars. And in addition to attempting to rank for the keyword yoga mat, you would attempt to rank for a number of related long tail keywords like green yoga mat, red yoga mat, soft yoga mat, long yoga mat, short yoga mat for kids, yoga mat for women, yoga mat for men, yoga mat, blah, 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 blah. So many variations as you can. And maybe you'd make multiple pages, because within one page it would be nearly impossible to rank for so many keywords. But in theory, you'd love to rank for all the possible variations of keywords which apply to your particular yoga mats, because then the more keywords you rank for, the more traffic you get, the more sales you make. Easy peasy. But now with AIs, as I mentioned, it's not about the keywords, it's about the context. So how does that play in here? You see, because it's context, what you're going to want to focus on is writing a longer and much more detailed description explaining exactly when your particular yoga mat is best, what kind of audience is best for, and for which use cases. Because you're not going to trick AI to think that your yoga mat is the best one for all cases in the world, but you should convince the AIs that, let's say you're selling extra soft yoga mats. So for people with joint problems, this is the ideal and premier best thing they can get. What that would imply is that you would write out that explanation in much more detail than you would in the past. So you would maybe cite some studies. You would maybe cite some doctor quotes, just as if you were convincing another person to buy this. You would give the same reasoning and context to the AIs because they'll be able to truly understand it and put two and two together. So when somebody with, let's say, back problems or injuries is looking for an extra soft yoga mat, out of the many extra soft yoga mats that are out there they can recommend, they would be much more likely to recommend yours if you give sufficient context and reasons. And if we elaborate on this yoga mat e-commerce example, today there are many people going to ChatGPT to ask health advice because in many cases it's proven to be better than doctors. And the responses are immediate, whereas to see a doctor, you have to make an appointment, pay money, etc. So many people are actually going to AIs rather than Google, rather than doctors for medical advice. And the AIs give very elaborate answers like, let's say somebody has back pain. The AI will actually give many solutions for the back pain. One is softer cushioning shoes, softer cushioning carpets, softer cushioning yoga mats or exercise mats to lessen the blow on the joints of those patients. And imagine if it recommended your brand. That would be amazing. In fact, actually, I had some foot pain and asked AI for how to fix this. It's been like a long-term soccer injury that I've had for like many years. And you know what? It recommended a number of brands that make extra soft shoes, and I went and I bought them. So it's real. It doesn't just work on some random people out there. It actually worked on me. I'm a real case study. And miraculously, the shoes it recommended really, really, really worked for me. So that's GEO. We can't predict the future, but there is a high chance that this is the future of SEO. Now I want to define a term, LLM SEO. It's a new term, and whenever you hear a term GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, in the same sentence or the same breath, you might also hear LLM SEO, Large Language Model SEO. What are these terms? Why does it have to be so confusing? It's like a field for nerds only. Why can't they just go back to the nice names like pandas and penguins? If you're familiar with Google history, they have a history of naming weird things in fuzzy, furry, and cute animal names. Well, one can dream. But here we have to understand the difference between LLM SEO and GEO. So let's talk about that. You see, LLM is very, very related to GEO, but it's not exactly the same thing. Although if you had a Venn diagram, the overlap will be gigantic. LLM is a subset of GEO. So inside Generative Engine Optimization and even degenerative, that word is so hard to say, degenerative and generative, that's my joke. So LLM is just a subset of Generative Engine Optimization. Think of it like this. If GEO is a big bookstore which has all kinds of books, philosophy books, cooking books, novels, comic books, fiction, nonfiction, all sorts of books. So in our analogy, LLM SEO is just one of the book sections inside that big bookstore that is GEO. GEO is the entire bookstore. LLM is a section inside that bookstore. And let's say in our example, LLM is the cookbook section. Well, how do you get your cookbooks into this big store? The same way you get your cookbooks into that store as you would if you had comic books or if you had novels. They have to be really, really good, and the bookstore owner would look at it and scrutinize it and think, is this really the best? And if they decide it's the best, they'll add it to the bookstore. And the bookstore owner, that's the analogy of AI. It's smart now. So smart that it understands many more contextual things about each of the books or pieces of content if you're talking about SEO. And just to quickly recap, when we're talking about GEO, it's basically all the ways you can optimize for generative search engines, a wide range of them. Chatbots, voice assistants, AI search, and many more services and tools that we interface with that use AI in the background, which, to be fair, moving forward is going to be almost everything that we interact with. And within that, there's LLM. It's just a topic inside GEO, like I'm drawing up this analogy. But LLM SEO specifically focuses on optimizing for language-based AIs like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini from Google, Llama from Meta, and similar ones that are language-based. Hence, large language model, LLM stands for large language model. That's how you remember it. So hopefully now this confusing distinction is a little more clear. And with that, I just want to give you a small summary of GEO and LLM SEO. Like I mentioned, GEO encompasses LLM, but also focuses on other generative platforms. And both, this is where the Venn diagram really overlaps, both involve you creating content, structured data, even APIs if you have them, focusing on brand visibility outside of your website and integration with AI ecosystems so that these AI ecosystems and AI tools can learn more about your brand and not just learning with traditional SEO through keyword matching, but learn by creating an entire context of how your brand and content fits into everything else. And also, there's a huge focus on trust signals your expertise, citations about your content or business by other authoritative sources, and mentions outside of your website, and of course within your website, the use of structured data, so it's easier for the search engines to really understand everything. So hopefully that helps you understand the difference between GEO and LLM SEO, where they're different and where they are the same. There's one more concept I want to introduce you to, and that is AEO, which stands for Answer Engine Optimization. Let's talk a little bit about that. It's similar to SEO and GEO in LLM SEO, but it's not exactly the same because it focuses specifically on answer-based systems and answer-based use cases. For example, when people type questions into Google, to some queries, the best result is just an answer. Not a million links to different websites, not a product, not any kind of business, but just like a factual answer. For example, what is the kind of material for your clothing that is best for keeping moisture out? There is an objective answer out there in the world. And for many questions, you don't need the extra bells and whistles that search almost always has provided in the past. You just need an answer. So AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, focuses specifically on those cases, but those cases can appear on a multitude of platforms, including Google, of course, right? So Google's featured snippets and answers, and even the AI answers, often just attempt to actually answer the question without all the extra bells and whistles that usually can come in the search. Similar for Bing and similar for many of the other traditional search engines out there. Today, they have a feature where they recognize whenever an answer is needed, they just provide the answer. But this paradigm extends to many other places like voice assistants that range from Alexa, Siri, Google Voice Assistant, and many other voice assistants. Very often you ask them a question and they just give you an answer. So AEO is the process of you optimizing your content to make sure that the answer they pull is from your brand in case they ask for more or for extra information. Your brand can get that visibility. But of course, you may be already asking yourself and thinking, well, don't people ask questions on ChatGPT also? Of course. So ChatGPT is also a place, and other AI engines are also a place where people simply ask questions, and your content, if it's positioned in the right way, can get used by the AI engines just to answer questions. Keep in mind, of course, they do far more than answer questions, but one of the things they do is answer questions. So naturally, the next question you may be asking yourself is, what should I have for lunch? No, just kidding. You might be asking, what's the main takeaway for me here? And the main takeaway is optimize your content so direct answers can be extracted from your content, and then answer engines will naturally be more likely to pull content from your website. So now you no longer just have to worry only about ranking in search. That's the model of yesterday. You can still get traffic from search, but today you also have to worry about LLM SEO, GEO, and this topic AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. So yes, worry about search engine ranking, but curate your content in a way that directly answers relevant questions. And in the next video, I'm going to begin breaking down how exactly to optimize your content so that you position it for number 1, the traditional Google search, number 2, GEO, number 3, LLM SEO, and number 4, AEO, so that you can optimize your content for all of these without having to create more content. But when you create your content, it will just be a much more precise and intelligent and savvy strategy that will position you incredibly well to beat out all your competition, even giant brands, today and moving forward. Now, I want to begin giving you an example of how to optimize your content in order to rank for all of these new concepts, AEO, GEO, LLM SEO, it's possible you're still getting used to all the terminology and the concepts maybe flowing into one another, like they're a little confusing. So in this video, I made a little spreadsheet to help you contrast and understand the differences between them to solidify the concepts, so that with the very next video, when we start to look at how to actually make your content on your website different in order to prepare your content so that it can get used by these different ways AI can use your content, this will just help you solidify where each one fits in this ecosystem. So let's start from the top. AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, column B. You can quickly see that you're focusing on Google search, Bing search, and the various voice assistants. Now, going to column C, what's the purpose? The purpose is to be featured in result snippets and answers. And when people ask additional questions or clarifications, this is where, if you optimize for AEO, your content and website and brand will be more likely mentioned in these answers. And if we move over to column D, the key strategy for how to actually accomplish this. So you would want to create FAQ style content or more FAQ pages on your website. And even if you don't do the FAQ style content, what you want is content that's answer-based formatted. Instead of a heading like XYZ, the answer might be, what is the best XYZ, or how to do XYZ? And you can accomplish that in the subheadings of your pages. Of course, you want to use structured data and provide clear, concise answers to potential questions that consumers might have. So it's actually optimization, but it's really also helping your potential customers buy from you better, because when you answer their concerns and questions, they'll be more likely to move to the next part of the sales process. So it's a good practice thing to do anyway. Now, that's AEO. Let's move on to GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. And of course, generative, degenerative. This joke is probably getting old now. I won't use it too much, I promise. So if we move over to column B, what platforms you are targeting. Here you're targeting platforms like ChatGPT, other AI tools like Perplexity, and the Google's AI assistant. And your goal is to have your content cited or summarized as a source in AI-generated answers. So as we move over to column D, how do you do this? In addition to writing FAQ-style content and answer-based content, you want to write semantically rich content that gives a lot of background and adds unique value for the subject matter. And it should be structured well so that AIs can more easily understand exactly what you're addressing, what you're explaining, so that they can use it in elaborate content and conversations they have with users. Now, moving on to LLM SEO, which stands for Large Language Model SEO. This is where you're targeting the AI models, like, again, repeating here, ChatGPT also, but also other AI engines. And what you want to do is to increase the chance that your content is learned from and referenced and recommended. And as you might be seeing, there is obviously overlap. The purpose here is very, very similar, or at least highly overlapping with GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, and LLM SEO. Yes, it's highly overlapping. But what I want to point your attention to, the difference, is that it's richer content. Because look, the key strategy here is to focus on your own authority and portray yourself as an expert. You also want to have fact density and reference density and make your content the most potentially referenced for the AI. So when AI decides, what's the best content on this topic to learn from so that I can give the best answers to consumers? Oh, it's that content that has all the research and the expert is writing it and they wrote an incredible article and they explored the subject matter from different angles, and it's just the richest content and has the best depth of coverage. That's the content it will use. Of course, it will use a mixture of content and websites, but yours will be much more likely to be one of the ones it uses. Hence, it might reference your brand. And this is actually great for your business, because if in the past you were like writing blog post articles just to rank in Google, whatever, blah, 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 hope for the best, kind of a hope and a prayer, like most blog posts are out there. Like, if we're honest, most blog posts don't quite get the level of scrutiny and writing like books, or, they're blog posts. They're a little bit more informal. But what if you change that approach and write as though you want to be the number one source on the subject matter? Really write something amazing. That will actually be amazing for your readers and amazing for your business, and actually your personal brand and your business brand will be elevated manyfold. So it's fantastic for your actual business, but also you'll be taking care of your LLM SEO. So these are tremendously good practices, actually. Even if they weren't SEO tactics, they would actually be usability tactics, because they'd help your consumers engage with your business more. So hopefully this explanation clarifies the difference between AEO, GEO, LLM SEO, and if ever you're confused, which I admit it's very confusing, you can always reference this so that it's all in one place, compared side by side, and you can dispel any future confusion within seconds. Now let's do something really fun together, and that is to write content that's going to be optimized at the same time for the traditional SEO, then LLM SEO, then AEO, then GEO. And if you're thinking, well, that does not sound fun at all, what kind of fun is this? Like, fun is like eating ice cream or riding roller coasters. This is my nerdy fun that is fun for me, and I hope that I can invite you to have fun with me here. But I think for all of us, it's really, really fun to dream about getting traffic and actually getting traffic as well. So maybe this is fun. Let's write this together, okay? And the content that we're going to write is going to be about this topic. What is creatine and how does it work? If you don't know what creatine is, it's a natural substance found in muscle cells. You don't have to be a scientist to write this together with me. I'll do most of the writing and I'll guide you through it. And this kind of a topic is really great if, let's say, you have a fitness website, a fitness blog, or an e-commerce website that sells health supplements or health supplies or anything that's health related. This is a great post for that kind of a website. Now, traditionally, if you were to just write an SEO article without thinking about AI, but just thinking about ranking in the traditional Google search, you would maybe write what it is and how it works. And you'd maybe add some paragraphs here and there just to make the content longer. Maybe you'd add some photos here and there. And then you would think to yourself, well, what else should I do? Should I write some other content, random things? I don't know. How would I make it better? And while there are concrete answers to these questions, the process may be a little bit unorganized because we don't have a direction. But now we actually have great direction, because we know that we need to cite articles, we need to write things in a way that answers questions, etc. So now we can have great direction. So let's begin expanding on the actual content beyond the headline. So let's start with the AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, part of the optimization. Our goal is to give concise and direct answers to the questions that are asked. So here's what we might add to the very top of this blog post, the very natural answers. What is creatine? And then we would actually write what creatine is. Here, we don't actually care about the subject matter. We care about the structure of the page and what's covered. So what is creatine? You go on and explain what creatine is. How does creatine work? That's actually the questions that's in the blog post. So we definitely have to answer these. And so we explain how creatine works. Creatine increases your body's phosphocreatine stores, which helps generate ATP, etc., etc. So we answer those questions. Notice that we answer them in concise question and answer form so that AIs or answer engines can simply extract this and easily use it. So a few tips here. Make your subheadings very clear. Use paragraphs that are short. Keep it under 70 words, 80 words. Under that, you can go under 50 words, but not too much under 50 words because you still want to give a rich enough answer. And if you can, you want to use bullet points, tables, or numbered lists and structured data. We'll be talking about structured data later, but for now, use of structured data is helpful. And while I don't want to make this video too long, what you can do is think about a few additional questions that consumers may have about creatine. They might ask, is creatine safe as a supplement? They might ask, what are the doses that are appropriate? They might ask, is it safe for children? Is it safe after an injury? Is more after an injury better than not? And they may ask many questions. Why not address these here? These are actually really helpful to consumers. Notice that this will be a very different strategy. Like in the past, people used to try to game Google and try to write extra long content full of fluff. Well, fluff does not help. That's bad. But really helpful Q&A style questions and answers will help in this case. So with that in mind, you may be once again thinking, what's for lunch? I'm bored. No, stay with me. You may be asking, okay, that's great for AEO. How do we optimize this content for GEO? Generative Engine Optimization. Let's do that. For Generative Engine Optimization, where you want tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and the Google AI Assistant, you want to help them summarize your content accurately and cite your pages or business. So you might write something a little longer. So right under the Q&A part of the content or above, it doesn't particularly matter as long as it helps your visitors navigate your page better and it's a more natural experience for them. You may have a non-Q&A section. For example, here, creatine benefits. And here is where you'd write in a more elaborate fashion and perhaps cite studies. Here, for example, I wrote something like this. According to numerous studies, obviously, we don't care about the actual studies here. We're not learning about creatine, but in your case, you might actually link to a cited study. And then, of course, if that study is by some top university and top researcher, then you're going to get a lot of authority. So according to numerous studies, maybe cite study 1, study 2, study 3, so that instead of going to those studies individually, AI can reference your article because your article is the best summary on the subject matter. So you have this research you link to, and then you might say something like creatine supplementation can enhance muscle strength, boost performance in short duration exercise, and improve recovery. This is quite quotable, and AI may just actually use that verbatim in its answer. So use deeper contextual insights, scientific references, data, charts, and use what's called semantic richness. Let me explain what that is. You might not have noticed the use of some complicated terminology like ATP regeneration. This is a subtopic within the conversation of creatine. Now, also a very complex topic, phosphocreatine stores. This is a subtopic within the conversation of creatine. It makes your article much, much better. You do have to have some level of expertise to write this, but you should, because Google and AIs really care that the writer is the expert. So the days of I rolled out of bed and now I'm going to start a blog about health and fitness, those days are gone, but that's good because it doesn't mean that if you're not a doctor, you can't write about fitness, but you should gain some level of expertise before you write about a subject matter. Just like traditionally, when I was a child, I was told, think before you speak, or learn and listen before you speak. Similar here. You can learn enough about a subject matter and then write about it. And if you can write an article that's better than doctors, Google will love that you did that. And you don't even have to actually be as smart as doctors because honestly, nobody knows everything. Even doctors don't know. The only thing they know is how to reference leading research in their field. And suddenly, they're able to stay best informed. And so can you because doctors are not researchers. They have to read research just like we do. The only difference is they have some obvious good starting point because they have a lot of schooling. But all that goes to say is that you should not be discouraged if you're not an expert. You can learn, and that actually will make your future work better and your content better. So it's really better. But these extra subtopics within the topic, like the subtopic of ATP regeneration, other complex subtopics, make your main topic much better addressed, much richer. That's what the AIs love. And every time I say the AIs, there's like a whole group of AIs, ChatGPT, Perplexity, next one. Instead of the AIs, I should call them our buddies, like the group of friends, the bros of AI, ChatGPT, Perplexity, the AI bros. We'll coin that term together. But seriously, the semantic richness that we discussed here is really, really important to get the AI bros to recommend our brand and our content. So with that in mind, let's talk about how to optimize for LLM SEO. And the goal here is to make your content worthy of being referenced and remembered by the AI models. You see, there's this idea of remembered. And that can mean many things, but one of the things it means is that you should have unique and original authoritative content that's new for AIs that they can use. So here's a new subsection within your page that's going to optimize for LLM SEO. Here's the title, Creatine in Practice with Clients. So let's read it together. As a sports nutritionist with over a decade of experience, you see, this is that expertise and experience that Google wants us to have. But if you don't have that, you might open with something like, as somebody who's been studying nutrition for the last 10 years, whatever authority you can bring to this, you may not be a doctor, but some is better than none. So you want to lead with your authority. And it does also help your actual readers because they're going to wonder, what's your experience in this? And you want to be transparent with it, but put your best foot forward naturally. So you might say something like, as a sports nutritionist with over a decade of experience, I've found creatine to be the cornerstone supplement for performance. In fact, over 500 peer-reviewed studies support efficacy in improving short-term muscular output. And you might add something like, and over 100 of my clients have seen measurable results after taking creatine supplements. And you might add a chart about your clients so that it's original and new, a study from you. And if you're not a doctor and you don't have a study from you, you can draw upon your experience. Like, I've helped over 1,000 entrepreneurs in my career. I can create my own chart that's unique that AIs can use. And my chart will just have my own findings in my work with my clients, but it's a new kind of a study. And also, there's a recommendation provided by the expert here. The AIs, the LLMs, they can pull that and use that as one of the sources for recommendation of like how much creatine to use. So if consumers ever ask it how much is good to use, yours may be one of the options they'll consider when they come up with their eventual answer. And to sum up, you definitely want to show your authority, expertise, and offer an expert opinion. The expert opinion and the expert suggestion is what's going to be unique, and the AIs may use that. You also want to use precise and factual language that the LLMs can understand and restate. And if you write a lot on your page, you want to use topic clusters and write comprehensive guides that AIs, the AI bros, all of them, the ChatGPT, Perplexity, next one, they can see and begin to reference you more and more. And use studies, but also offer your own original expert insights. And each article with your own bio. In the past, the bios were an option. In fact, for a long time, it's already been a very underrated SEO strategy, but it's been under the radar. Today, it's not anymore. Write your bio. Don't copy and paste it, but write it as it pertains to the subject matter of this article and add your bio to all your relevant pages because the AI bros want authority. They want to know that you're an expert. And by the way, human consumers also do too. And of course, you would do all the other things like add rich content, like photos, like videos, like charts. like links to other sources and your own similar pages that are relevant. But what I wanted to show you here is how to optimize your pages for all of the new trends in SEO, AEO, GEO, LLM SEO, and still have a great chance, even better chance to rank in the traditional SEO. With this video, let's begin a section in which I'm going to give you an example and have it serve as a case study of successful LLM SEO and GEO optimization, that's Generative Engine Optimization, where I'm going to walk you through how I raised my own brand's level of standing and how the AIs see my brand. So you can do this for your brand, that's a business brand or a personal brand, and how within just a few minutes, I was able to get the AIs to promote my business much more. And it's a real example and real case study, and you'll see everything click by click as I did it. So without further ado, let's begin this section. Now, the very first thing to do when you're beginning to optimize your website content for LLMs, large language models, is to actually go to them and ask them what they know about your brand. That way you can tell where they're getting their information, and you'll be able to direct them to get the right information about your brand and portray your brand in the best possible way it can and to more people. So the very first thing I did is I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, what do you know about Alex Gnedinic? Well, that's me. And then it tells you what it knows. You want to read this carefully so you can tell where it's getting this information. So it's saying Alex Gnedinic is an entrepreneur, business coach, author, and course creator who has built a strong presence in online education space, particularly in platforms like Udemy and YouTube. Here are some key highlights about him. And then we scroll and read. And the very first thing is, see, course creator and educator. He has created over 100 online courses. This may not jump out at you, but at the moment I have around 250 courses because I've made them over so many years, which tells us this is incredibly outdated information that ChatGPT has about my business. So you want to go and search for where is the mention of this? So I literally went to Google and I searched for 100 online courses. So you see Alex Gnedinic, 100,000 students or 100 courses. So I did a search like that just to find it. And you'll see that I say that on my website right here, hire a business coach. And then it says somewhere here, I was going to say 100,000 students. Now it's a page I made obviously a long time ago and probably forgot it because at the moment it's 900,000 plus students. So it's about 10-year-old or 8-year-old information here. But at least you know where ChatGPT is pulling this information from. And very curiously, it's pulling this information from the about area of my page here. Who am I? Entrepreneur, author, marketer. This is essentially what AI said about me when it answered, right? Alex is a prominent entrepreneur, educator, etc. So it pulled a lot of information from here, but that's a weird place to pull from. I would never have guessed until I did this check. So the first thing we want to focus on is wherever it's pulling information from. If it's on your website and you have control over it, you want to edit that page ASAP with the best and latest information. So priority on my to-do list would be to revamp this entire page. But this really just leads me to the fact that the part of your website, which is important for LLM SEO, is the About Me or About Us page. So on any website, you'll have something like About or Contact. In my case, just to make things fit on the navigation, long time ago, I combined the About and Contact. But now the strategy would be to actually make it more prominent. So when I click on this, you see I don't have a very elaborate large page here. And this is the Contact page. I also have on the bottom here About page. As you can see, it was neglected. Now, for Google SEO, you don't need to have your About page ranking. That's not what usually ranks. But for LLM SEO, it's become incredibly important. But it was always important for sales conversion because people, when they discover your brand, they'll go to your About page and they'll try to learn about you. So it's always been important to have really great things said about you. And as you can see, my video here is a little old. I've neglected these. So what I would do is I would put 3 things on my to-do list. as very high priority, like same day. I would improve my about page, I would improve my contact page, and I would improve that page that we saw where it pulled information about me. So I'll do that now, and I'll show you how these pages look like in the next video after they've been updated. So I took a little bit of time and turned my About Us page from this, basically an ugly kind of video on top and some just text that's there and a dumb picture at the bottom, which is like 15 years old picture now, and it's just a funny picture but not so professional. So I changed this whole page, and most importantly, the text just wasn't very good and wasn't very representative of what I've done in the best possible way. So I changed it. I changed the headings. You see, I gave it a lot more specific text, like about my books, about my courses, very detailed, very organized. And I made sure that certain accomplishments are there, like there's nearly 1 million students, etc. And then I asked ChatGPT to do this. I said, can you use this page, which has the latest information about Alex Kinzinik, to learn about all his accomplishments? This is the main page about him. And I posted the link to this URL. And it read it all. See, basically top online instructor, 1 million students, etc. And then I asked it, now tell me what you know about Alex Kinzinik. And it had updated information. For example, that I'm a top 1% Udemy instructor with nearly 1 million students, etc., etc. Much better than before. And you can do the same thing on the other LLMs that you care about, or you can just wait until they recrawl your about page, which shouldn't take too many days, because at the end of the day, you can't update your information on all of them. There's just almost an endless amount of these tools. But as long as you have your About You very clearly and structured on your About page, eventually they'll find it and represent your brand much better. And hopefully, because it has better information about you, will recommend you more. So now I want to show you the fruit of our labor. So I went to ChatGPT and asked it, who are the best instructors for entrepreneurship and soft skills? Remember, soft skills and entrepreneurship are the things that I listed on my About page, right? You see soft skills here and entrepreneurship here. So I would actually recommend you to list all the items that you specialize in, or whatever your brand specializes in. Go wide and list many things, because look what happened. It says top instructors in entrepreneurship. Ta-da! It's me. And it pulled this information right from that About page. Everything that I wrote about university like Pepperdine in Kentucky, which is where my books are used, and things like that. Very good. So if anyone ever asks ChatGPT, who is the best instructor for entrepreneurship? Ta-da! It's going to be me, and I'm going to get more brand awareness and traffic from ChatGPT. Mission accomplished. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something called AI overviews. As you can see, I did a random Google search. I basically just wrote, what is the meaning of life? Random question, just like any other random Google query. And you may have been already seeing this and noticing this, but obviously now Google has this, what they call AI overviews. There's a technical term for this, and the technical term is SGE, which stands for Search Generative Experience. But for us, we can just call it the AI overviews. And once you click on this and show more, let me quickly explain how, as marketers, we should understand this blurb. First of all, Google's AI uses multiple sources online to come up with this answer. And according to Google, in many ways, this is a better search experience than Google, as you see down below, still has those links that they show, but consumers very often just want the answer to whatever they're searching for. They don't necessarily want to go to some random website. And Google also has incentive to keep people off some random websites and on Google. So it's a little controversial, but for us as marketers, we have to ask the question, how do we get our content to be featured here? Because very often they'll show you the sources. For example, here, if we want to learn more about existentialism, we can click on this little link, see where they got this information, and click over and go there, right? So you want to be, as a business owner, a website owner, as a marketer, you want your content to be referenced here. So let's talk about how you can get that done. The first thing you want to do is build what's called topical authority. Essentially, what that means is that Google will see your website as being one of the best for providing information about a certain topic. Like you can see in Reddit, there are entire subreddits, entire conversation threads, and many posts and many conversations on this same topic of, in this particular case, existentialism, but whatever the topic is that you want to rank for and get recommended for. So while your website may not be structured in the same way that Reddit's is, because Reddit is a forum and most websites aren't structured that way, most websites have pages with content. So what I would recommend is, let's say you want to be seen in Google as an authoritative source in some topic, you want to build many good pages with context-rich content that are very closely related. Like, for example, I have a music website and it has a blog. The music website is touched by a song, but if we go to the blog section, a lot of the blog content focuses on music with interesting and poetic lyrics. Because that's what the music that I make, I'm a hobbyist musician, but still, when I make my music, I love music with meaningful poetic lyrics, and so I want people who like that also to find me. So I blog a lot about topics like songs and music lyrics and poetry, and as you can see, I have this blog post as our song lyrics poetry, and then next blog post, examples of the most poetic song lyrics. Okay, you see, best love songs of all time. Okay, you see basically the most romantic songs, depressing breakup songs, best love songs of all time. A lot of very, very similar posts in content. Songs about regret, now songs about suffering. You may say it's nearly the same thing. Songs about longing, right? Nearly the same thing. Why do I do that? So I can build topic authority. And because of this exact strategy, many of the pages on my website rank really highly in Google. And when pages rank really highly in Google, well, that's already a sign that Google sees those pages as good content, which means that there's a very high likelihood those pages are also going to get linked to and referenced as sources here, which means you could rank in the blue links. You see the traditional search results. Like, let's say you might have one listing here, but you can also be listed here, meaning if you get featured in the AI overviews and in the blue links results, that's at least 2 times your content or website is appearing in Google search results, which is better than 1. So topic authority is definitely a huge must. When people talk about, should I have a niche website or should I have a broadly focused website? Well, this is a +1 vote for niche websites. And of course, to get featured and referenced in the AI overviews, you also want to do a lot of the other same things you want to do for LLM and similar SEO, like structure your content better, write content that has more context and more text blurbs about specific scenarios and situations that apply to certain people and certain use cases. And if you create that kind of content regularly, Google actually loves when websites post content regularly. So those 3 things, topical authority, regular posting, and content with a lot of extra context and rich explanations, that goes a long way for not only getting mentioned and referenced in AI overviews, but actually ranking much, much higher in actual Google search, which is the blue links. Because I've recently actually been having a lot of success doing exactly that strategy, creating content exactly this way, and outranking large websites with my own niche sites, precisely because I have that kind of content that I make in that style that I'm recommending here. In order for the AI tools like ChatGPT and others to find all your pages online and to be able to navigate to your about pages, they have to be able to do something called crawling. So in this video, I want to explain how to make sure that your website is crawlable, and I want to go over some potential mistakes some website owners make. So what is this idea of crawling? Here is how Google or AI tools, quote unquote, crawl your website. So they might come to your URL, they might discover it online or in some other way. And what they would do is look at your, let's say, homepage, like I'm looking at now. They'll download all of this content, all of this HTML, and they'll extract all the links. So you see everything that's clickable and linkable, everything that's clickable. When you scroll down, there are some things like business here, this word, then these books. In the process of crawling, they'll take all these links, and the analogy maybe isn't so much crawling, but like almost like a water bug. They would like hop, almost like this kind of a water bug, they just jumps on water, jump, 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 jump. It's possible that this example of a water bug is equally creepy to a spider crawling, but in the Google world and the AI crawling world, these software, they're considered spiders that are crawling. So pick your own creepy looking gross bug that you would not want to hang out with. But whatever it is, that's the analogy, is that they skip along all the links. So for example, they'll go to this page of courses, then they'll go to this page of books, download all the links from these next pages, etc. And then eventually they'll get to the contact page or the about page and whatever. And they'll use all the information on all of these pages to learn everything about your business. Now, of course, they will also do this off page. They'll do this on social media. They'll do this on other websites that mention your business that you have no control of. But in this video, we're just talking about these crawler software being able to fully crawl your website, because on your website, you're able to say the best things about yourself. So you want them to crawl your website. So the first thing you have to do is to make sure that all the pages that you want the AI to read about you so it can learn the most about your business is to make sure that all of your pages are crawlable. To manually make sure that your pages are crawlable, you will just be able to navigate, like from the homepage, can you actually navigate to page X or page Y? If so, then the search engines can do it as well. But if you cannot navigate by clicking, the search engines cannot do it either. So they won't know about certain pages of yours. And of course, if you have a small website, it's easy to check whether all your pages are crawlable. But what if you have a very, very large website with thousands of pages? Well, there are a bunch of software solutions for them. One of the easier ones is a type of tool that just helps you check whether you have broken links on your website. If you don't want to get too technical, you want to just Google for broken link checkers. They are free tools. You can go to them, you enter your website like this, and then you click on find broken links, and it will just do the work for you. Here I had to enter a security code, and then you click on find broken links now, and it starts working. So obviously, if you have some broken links, there are some links that the Google crawler cannot use, and so they cannot crawl their website. But usually these are pretty easy to fix, because if you find a broken link, you go into your HTML, fix it, done. If you want to spend a little more time on this and do this in a slightly more sophisticated way, I would recommend to sign up for a Google tool called the Google Search Console. Now, there's a little bit of a setup time in this, and this course does not focus on this tool, although I do have other courses that focus on this. But in the Google Search Console, once I log in, I'll be able to show you how it looks like. You see on the left side, there's an option for indexing. After Google learns about your pages, they index the pages. So you can see which pages Google has indexed and which it has not, and you can then more technically zero in on which pages are working and not. But this is, again, a little bit outside the scope of this course, but certainly at some point of your SEO journey, it is highly recommended that you sign up for this tool and get familiar with it, because it is really, really helpful. Today, for SEO marketers, I would say as a free tool from Google, this is the number one tool from Google, maybe behind the Google Keyword tool. But at the very, very least, on day one, like right now, make absolutely sure that on your website, all the important pages that talk about not only you, not only your brand, but also the important services that your business provides, like see in my case here, books, coaching, courses, etc., that this is clickable and crawlable so that the AI tools and Google can find you. Because if it's not crawlable, they're smart. but they're not mind readers. If they can't find it, they won't know this information exists and they won't be able to use it. So just make sure they can actually crawl to your about pages and the important informational pages on your website. In this video, I want to bring your attention to a very common mistake that larger businesses make, or businesses with older websites, and that is the misuse of robots.txt. Now, here's a brief explanation of what this file is. Robots.txt is a simple text file that provides instructions to web crawlers on how to crawl and index your website. If you don't have this kind of a file on your system, you're fine. That means that crawlers will just crawl however they want, which is actually ideal in most cases. But if you don't want certain pages to be crawled and indexed and shown in Google, for whatever reason, maybe some manager somewhere up the chain was paranoid about sharing some information too much, and maybe they're a little cuckoo, but they were paranoid just enough, and so they decided, oh, I'm going to have a robots.txt because I don't want to show my website. In most cases, that's ridiculous. In rare cases, yes, robots.txt is fine. There are some things you maybe don't want searchable in Google or AI, but in most cases, you have your website public so that you can display this information. It's already public. So just make sure that, one, you don't actually already have this file in your ecosystem. Usually it would live at the root of your file system. Like here, if I show you my FTP, for example, you might not use FTP. You might use a more sophisticated way to upload files or navigate your server file system. But essentially, the root of your website, like in my case, it's the file system on my server here. So I would upload the robots.txt file here. You see, I have a robots.txt file here, but if I go and edit this file just to show you what it is, here's what it looks like. The directories here are old directories that I used when I had a mobile app, and the mobile app was using the same server as my actual website. For whatever technical reasons, I did that just to kind of save money on hosting. That was maybe like 12 years ago, actually. So these are just leftover directories that are totally not related to anything having to do with SEO or search or content. Anything that has to do with content, I want the search engines and the AIs to know. That's why it's public. So here, it's intelligently telling Google or AIs not to look through these because there's just a lot of code in these directories often. Or sometimes there's just nothing there anymore anyway. It's just very, very old stuff. But if I had some kind of like directories with content in these, that would be very, very bad. So if you don't have this kind of a file, great. It would usually live in the root of your server. So just go there or ask somebody like an engineer, whoever handles that, to go there, see, do I have a robots.txt? If no, great. Forget about it. If you do, open it, look at what's in it, make sure the directory names are not the ones you want crawled. Because if by some typo or someone somewhere makes a mistake and it tells Google or AI, hey, don't crawl my homepage, or don't crawl my about page, or don't crawl my contact page, because some genius somewhere might think like, oh, contact page, I don't want them to scrape my email, or whatever logic they may use. Well, now you want your about page to be scraped and to be used in search because that's what AIs use. So now you have to make sure that anything related to contact or about you is not listed in the robots.txt, because if you do have that, it's a huge own goal that you're going to score because you're going to prevent the AIs and search engines from learning about you. So just make sure you don't make this very, very common error. It's not an error that's made by new websites, but it's a common thing that comes out of a blind spot that's made by larger and older websites. Whenever Google or the AI search engines decide on whether to promote you, they are programmed to use a certain concept called EAT or EEAT. EAT was originally a Google concept, but now it's kind of a more or less a universal concept. So even if an AI search engine doesn't actually use that exact concept of EAT as Google has it, it uses something very similar. So let me first introduce you to what this EAT is. It's like EAT, but not really EAT. Kind of a weird, Google has like weird acronyms, and they're kind of known for like, when something's horrible, they like use a fuzzy animal, like, oh, the penguin penalty, the panda penalty, even more horrible penalty that's called by a cute animal name. Here, EAT, I don't even know if it's cute or not. In any case, it used to be EAT, but now it's EAT. They added another E. It stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. That means that if they know nothing about you, they are not going to promote you. But if you somehow show that you have expertise or experience, or you're authoritative or trustworthy in a field, they are going to be much more likely to promote you. This goes for Google. This also goes for the AI search engines. So your online reputation management is really important. Of course, you're going to say the best things about yourself on your website. Well, anyone can. So Google and the other AIs rely on external factors like social media, but not just things you post, but mentions of you. Or let's say you're posting medical information. Are you a doctor? Have you worked in the medical field or the health field? Where do you get your information? And also, if you've been working at some office, that's kind of like a brick and mortar office, and Google has no idea about it, well, they have no idea about it, and the search engines have no idea about it. That information also has to be present online. So if you have a PhD or a DR title before your name, okay, that helps. But if you have a long history of online activity, that helps far more, because they can gauge and assess how well or poorly your content performed in the past and how customers and consumers responded to it. So that means you have to get mentions of yourself somewhere else on the web, preferably from authoritative sources. Now, that's not easy. And of course, if you can get the most authoritative personal brand on the internet to mention you, that would be amazing. But we can't really do that. It's not feasible. So we have to maybe get the second or third or fourth or fifth or the 20th or the 100th or maybe the 1000th is better than nothing. The 1000th most authoritative person on the web is better than nothing, but spammy level, like the 10,000th, that's when it gets to spam level, that's worse than nothing, okay? So you have to walk that tightrope and get more of the good mentions and kind of work up to it as you grow in your business. Now, how do you do all this? On day one, what you can get are easy mentions like citations by your friends on social media, etc. That goes a little way, but it goes some of the way. The very next step you might do is go to something like Fiverr and look within your industry. Let's say you're a musician. Well, you would look for music review. Let's say music review. And then you would look for music review services that maybe have a blog post. Oh, very interesting here. I will review your music and post it on Coyote Music website, only $20. Pretty reasonable. Now, of course, you would go and do your due diligence. Like, what is this Coyote? Why is it named Coyote? Why do you have a weird name? Is there a URL here that they post? If no, you can contact this person and ask them, like, or you can just Google for, Coyote Music. And is it like, woo? I hope it's better than that. So this is something you can get on day one or week one. Is this the panacea, the greatest thing you can get done? No. But then, let's say you're a musician. Imagine how hard it is to get reviewed in great music blogs. Of course, you're going to keep trying. And the more you keep trying and the better things they say about your brand, the more AIs and Google will promote you, because they'll trust you, because you will start to have these principles. Experience? Yeah. Expertise? Yeah. Authoritativeness? Yeah. Trustworthiness? Yeah. Times 10, because others are promoting you. Now, of course, these tools are super smart, Google's and AIs. So if you buy reviews and promotions, they can probably detect it because other people have bought from the site before. So they probably know. but it's still better than nothing, unless that website is super spammy and horrible. So you want to check the websites out before you buy from them. One way to do that is a free trial by SEMrush. Here it is. I'm going to semrush.com. I am logged in, but I don't have a paid account at the moment. And there are some very basic free things that allows me to do. I'm just going to look for this Coyote music review website, see if I find it. Oh, Coyote music reviews. That's where they have it. So you might actually get this URL and put that into SEMrush here and see what it tells you. It's going to give you basic information, but at least it's not bad, right? If this was like traffic is 0, it's kind of spam. But this is like legitimate, They're not 0, they're not great, but hey, a little bit of traffic that's organic. Google doesn't like hate it. And so for $20, it's a great mention. So if you're a musician, I would recommend getting this, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 like that, just to get on the map, on the radar of Google, so you can start satisfying that EEE requirement. Because without these requirements, it's going to be really hard to get the love that you need from the AI tools and Google as well. But if you do something like this, you're going to go a long way to sort of bypass this kind of a gatekeeping mechanism that they have. In addition to getting publicity about your brand or your business from big news sources out there, which is admittedly difficult, there are other options that you have as a brand or a business owner, and that is websites that are considered UGC, which stands for user-generated content. That's Wikipedia, Reddit, Quora. Those are big discussion forums and websites that AIs crawl to learn about everything, including you. So in this video, let's go over how to get yourself mentioned in those. Here you see I Googled for Wikipedia eligibility. If you're starting out on day 1, you can't have a Wikipedia page, but it's important to know when you can, because if you're a bigger brand, perhaps you're eligible to have your own Wikipedia page. And if you're not eligible yet, you can know what to strive for. So here we can read that Wikipedia page can be created for individuals or topics, or essentially brands like companies that meet Wikipedia's notability guidelines, which are based on a subject's level of importance and significance. In essence, a page can be created for someone or something if there's enough coverage about them in reliable independent sources. Okay, enough coverage about them in reliable independent sources. This is what we talked about earlier. If you can get mentions about you or your work or your business in large publications, like, for example, if you're an entrepreneur, Forbes or Entrepreneur Magazine, or large podcasts that are notable, or other large websites that discuss entrepreneurship, as long as those websites are very, very notable, as long as you have that coverage, like arguably, I could make a Wikipedia page about myself because there are some very notable websites that covered me directly, not as a mention in some article, but directly. And so because of that notability, I could, in theory, make my own Wikipedia page. And if you work for a relatively large company, it's very likely that you're much more than eligible. Now, if you're not eligible, there are good news. Websites like Reddit are also user-generated content, and you can also make a subreddit about your brand or business, which is highly recommended that you do that and start a conversation about your brand or business and have people who discuss it. If customers aren't discussing it, then perhaps you can get family and friends to start posting some things there just so that you get some activity about your brand on Reddit. The same exact strategy applies on a website like Quora. You can have friends and family post questions about your business or your brand, and then you can come in and answer those questions, or vice versa. You can post questions about your brand, and with a second account, you can answer questions about your brand. So Google and, of course, AIs can learn about your brand from Quora because they're going to look for information and trustworthy information and reliable information about your brand. If there's nothing there, well, there's nothing there. If there's something there, that's a little better. But if there's something there and it's very rich content, that's a lot better. And if you're able to generate actual real activity from many different people, that's way, way, way better. That's real authoritativeness that inspires more trust by these AI search engines. So these are definitely the strategies you at least want to strongly explore to see if you can make them work for you, because they do help you a lot in having the AIs recognize you as one of the brands they should promote to the people who are asking it various things.
This video is an introduction to the upcoming section of the course, which is relatively advanced to intermediate, rich snippets, which is versus featured snippets. What I want to show you is what they are, so that you see is basically, you see how like this listing, as an example, has the stars, and you see how it's really attractive. These, and of course, the 4.5 stars look better than the 3.5 stars, but besides the point, like when you have stars, first of all, it takes more space on the search results page, and second, it draws the eye, so it's that much more attractive. And in the next few videos, I'm gonna show you how to actually get this to appear for your pages, so that your pages have results that look like this. It's not possible in all cases, but if it's possible for you, I'll show you how to get that done so that your search results appear much more attractive. And that's going to be with, rich snippets, featured snippets, all that stuff. So that's what we're going to cover in the upcoming videos. Let's talk about how long you should wait and how long it might take for the rich snippets to show up in Google search results after you've edited your HTML or edited your website and set everything up on your end. From that point, how long does it take for rich snippets to show up in search? Results unfortunately vary because it's not up to us. Google has the last word. It's not a guarantee that rich snippets will ever show up. It depends on a few things. And again, Google decides. But they have some criteria. Their algorithm will look at the trustworthiness of your site overall and the authority of your site overall. And this is not an insult, like Google doesn't insult you when they say your site is not trustworthy. It just has to collect some signals about your site over time. So for example, new and unauthoritative sites, these sites take longer. And sites in YMYL niches take longer. YMYL is your money or your life, anything finance related, health related, lifestyle related, wellness related. Google just wants to be extra careful. So for those niches, SEO tends to take a little longer. So what have I seen in the past that I can share? Some of my clients that I've done this for with established sites, not gigantic sites, but established legitimate sites, they've taken about 2 weeks to 2 months to have rich snippets show up on their listings on the Google search result pages. On the other hand, it may possibly be much longer for new sites or new pages on existing sites, because Google just has to collect their own data. They're going to use your HTML snippet code as a suggestion, but at the end, they'll collect enough data about your page or your site and make the decision on their own independently. So what happens if rich snippets actually don't show up? If you wait for a few weeks or a couple of months and you check and there are no rich snippets next to your Google search result listing, then it's possible that maybe you made some error or there's some HTML issue. And this is admittedly advanced and technical. And even for me, like if I wanted to, I could figure out the HTML, I could get in there, but it would take me a while. So in this case, it's actually really good to hire a freelancer because this is advanced and it is technical and it does require some programming and HTML skills, not even beginner HTML skills, but maybe intermediate. So this will be a fine thing to hire a freelancer for, to see if they can find anything maybe in your HTML structure, specifically in your snippet data that maybe has incorrect syntax or something was wrong. And if they fix it, that will help Google add rich snippets to your listing. If you are not an HTML programmer or you're not technical or you're not a developer, it can be difficult to create markup code. That's why we have a special tool from Google that I'm going to show you now, so that even if you're not technical, you can still do this. So the tool is at google.com/webmasters/markup-helper, just like you see it here. You go there and you'll see this screen. You can enter your web page that you already have, and you can specify what it is. For example, I'm going to enter like one of my product pages, and I'm going to paste a URL of mine. Then I'm going to say start tagging. That's as simple as it is, right? Right now, there's nothing tagged. You'll see it in a second. So when I click on start tagging, it's going to show me what the tags might be. And you'll see on the right side, there's nothing really tagged. And I am creating, as you see that I chose right before this, it's a product, right? Because you can actually go back and you can see that I chose, you see products, that's the radio button that I chose here. And then again, this URL. It's a page that talks about my business plan book. And obviously it's a product, so people pay for it. So I really want this to rank. I really want to get exposure for it. So any important pages that you have on your site, you want to do this for that. And of course, if you don't have products, you would use whatever you have, maybe a local business, maybe a restaurant, maybe something else. But in this case, I've got a product. So I want to start tagging it. I'm going to basically just highlight things. And then right away, you see, I didn't press anything, but I got this drop down. And by the way, I'm doing this on the Chrome browser. It's the easiest, I think, on the Chrome browser because we're using Google tools, and Google tools tend to work best with other Google tools. So if this doesn't work perfectly for you, try the Chrome browser. Anyway, so you see, I've got this drop down. Obviously, I highlighted the name. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to choose the name option. Now look on the right side. When I click the name, it's going to fill that out. And then it gives me this button, create HTML. I'm going to create the HTML, and you can literally copy this and paste it into your HTML of your page. We're not going to do it just yet. I want to add a few more values, but we'll do it in a second. So I'm going to click back to tagging, which is what you should do also because you want to have more attributes. And then there's a price. Okay, so it's a $12.99 paperback. And you see, as soon as I highlighted it, it gave me this option again. I'm going to say this is the offer price, and you look at the right side. As soon as I choose price, it's going to autofill that. Now, when you say create HTML, notice that it has type and price, offer and $12.99, but also it has the name already saved. So you're kind of building your structured data. Now, just to be clear, why is it important to have structured data? Because this gives you the biggest chance that Google understands exactly what your page is about, because you're giving it this structure that it knows to understand instead of guessing from your text. And when Google understands exactly what your page is about, it's much more likely to rank you correctly. So you want to give it a lot of tags that are applicable. So you see there are many other things here. For example, I want to have an image associated with my Google search result listing. So I highlighted the image, and look, you see here there's a image option. So I'm going to choose the image. You'll see the same thing will happen. It will do that here. Obviously, there's a description of a product. So I'm going to highlight something that looks like the description, which is from here to there. And then I'm going to say that's the description. I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to also just for myself, look at what are the things you want, like brand. The brand will be me, I guess, because I'm the author. So I would have to look for my name somewhere here. Like Alex Giladinik, we'll say that's the brand. Then, of course, there's a product rating. In this particular case, I don't have ratings and reviews on this page. So I'm just going to say create HTML, and you'll see I have the full HTML here. Then I'm going to copy this script. And then the very next thing is it tells you where to put it on your page. Add the script block, which is this whole thing in gray that you can just basically highlight and copy, like Control-C. So you would Control-C, copy that, and then add the script block below the head section of your HTML. So if you go into your HTML for that page, which if you're wondering how to go into the HTML, in my case, I FTP'd to my server, and these are the files on my server, and then I right-click on this particular file, which is the file that is the actual page. This is the HTML of that page we were looking at, and I'm going to say edit with, and you can have many other more convenient text editors. In my case, I'm just going to have a very simple text editor. So here's the HTML. We have the head tag here, we have the closing head tag here, and we have the body of the HTML here. and I'm going to just paste that code into the header tag right below the head tag right here when the head opens. Users are not going to see this code because it's just for Google to understand, but this will help Google understand exactly what your website is about and hopefully add rich snippets and hopefully rank you higher and all of that. So basically just look at it like you're helping Google along in what they need to do and how they need to process your website. So you will basically just save that and your changes will be saved live on your website. Of course, if you have WordPress and you're not editing HTML directly, it will be a little different, but there's still a way to add things to the header tag, whatever website tools you use to edit your website. So that was pretty simple because we didn't have to write any of this, right? So what I wanted to show you in this video is really that tool. The tool, this was the important thing, because imagine having to learn the scripting language and all the tags by hand and writing it like that. It would be a nightmare, right? You don't want to do that. First of all, it's really slow. And second, it's super error prone. In this case, it's fast, it's not error prone, and you're going to be confident that you got your structured data right, which is great. And you can do this really, really quickly, within seconds, really, and be sure that your website has structured data on it, and Google can pull out the important parts of the information about every one of your important pages. If you aren't sure whether some page on your website supports or has the code for rich snippets or not, Google provides a page where you can test that. And the URL for this page is search.google.com/test/rich-results. I'll have the link to this URL in the resources of this video. So what you can do is actually paste any URL on your website and see whether it has the code for rich snippets and whether that code is actually correct. So I actually did this. So let me show you the results. One of my websites is written in straight HTML. So that means I have to write the actual HTML. And so I took a page from this website where I tried to write rich snippet code, and I had a feeling I didn't do it correctly. Now, if you have WordPress or Shopify, very likely it's done for you in the background. You don't even know about it, and it's done correctly, but you always want to check. But in my case, I actually just took this URL of this page that I suspected had incorrect code and incorrect structured data and data markup. I thought it was wrong, but I didn't know. So I literally just pasted this URL. As you can see, you can paste code snippets or entire URLs. So I pasted this URL and I pressed test URL, and here are the results that I got. As you can see, it said one invalid item detected, and here's the problem that it lists, and you can expand this and see what the problem is. It literally tells you that either offers or review or something called aggregate rating should be specified. So that means I just didn't specify a certain item. And when I clicked it, you see it went right to my HTML. This is the code inside my page. And it said, you see type product. That's where you can see here, type product. And under that, like I have name, image, description, brand. And so I should have another item like offers, review, or aggregate rating. So I need to specify that, which I didn't specify. So what I could do is go manually into my HTML and edit it. If you're comfortable editing HTML, you can just do that directly. But if you are not comfortable editing HTML, what you can do is take this right to ChatGPT. So you can take the code of your entire page and paste it into ChatGPT like I'll do now, and ask it to recreate that HTML, but with correct structured HTML code to make sure that this page is set up and has the potential to have the rich snippets show up in search results. So here's the prompt I used for ChatGPT. I said, can you take this HTML code and fix it to have the rich snippet and structured HTML code in order to have rich snippets for the product? Google says it needs offers and aggregate rating or review fields specified. Here's the original code. And then I literally pasted the entire code of that page. And then I pressed enter and it gave me some results. You see, if I scroll a little bit, it gave me the entire code. So in some cases, you may be able to just paste this and replace your current code with this.
And as you can see, this is not the code for the entire page, so I might ask it, recreate the HTML for the entire page. And then it will just give me the code for the entire page that I can safely copy and paste. Now, when I say safely, it's not that safe. So back up the original file, make sure you have a copy in case something goes wrong, and then paste what ChatGPT gives you, and then run it through that tool again that Google provides to check whether your HTML is correct now. And if it is, great. Now you see, with this, you don't have to be technical. You just have to know how to use the tools to check your HTML and then to rewrite it. Or you could have just started by checking whether your original page has any kind of structured HTML or any structured data. If it doesn't, you can ask AI to redo that page and create the rich snippet code for you, which enables you to work on code level even if you're not technical. And of course, always back up your work and test. Don't just blindly trust it.